This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm joined by Carl Greaves over Zoom. Carl, how are you this morning?
I'm good. All good, Andy. Thank you, mate.
I was about to say, it's not this morning now. It's afternoon. My head's all over the place. It's the afternoon now. Carl, some boxing to get our teeth into from last night. Somebody I know you'd probably kept an eye on in case a fight comes around in the future. Conor Benn with a stunning first-round stoppage victory against Samuel Vargas. Just your thoughts first and foremost.
Yeah, very impressed. I don't think nobody expected him to do that. Went out there, made a statement, caught Vargas early, capitalised, just wouldn't stop throwing punches, and gave the referee no choice but to stop it. Fantastic performance. And we've said it time and time again, he's so improved, it's unbelievable. But yeah, so really, really pleased with what he did. So let's just see what the next steps are.
Just before we move on to the next steps, just on Conor's performance, I know it was only, I think, 82 seconds the fight lasted. From an in particular standpoint, what impressed you the most about Conor's performance?
Just went out there straight to business. He looked sharp from the off, showed Vargas no respect, caught him early, caught him clean, and just wouldn't stop throwing punches. Saw the openings and took them. Fantastic. You got to give him full respect and full credit for what he did to someone as tough and durable as Vargas. As we know, Vargas is a good fighter. He's only been stopped by the very, very best, the elite welterweights, and he went out there and made an unbelievable statement.
Now, as we said, moving forwards, after the fight, Conor was very vocal about certain fighters, in particular Amir Khan. Firstly, just your thoughts, Carl. Would that be the right move or the right step for Conor, in your opinion?
It'd be a good fight for Conor. I mean, obviously, he's flying high. I mean, Amir Khan's at the end of his career now. It's a great name for Conor to have on his record. But does Amir Khan want them sort of opponents? I don't think so. I think he wants an high-profile cash-out fight, someone like Kell Brooks. So, yeah, for Conor Benn, it's a great fight, a good move. But for Amir Khan, I can't see him wanting to take that fight. It's too high risk, low reward fight for Amir.
I was going to say, do you feel that Conor would be successful in that fight? Do you feel he would be able to overcome Amir Khan?
It's an interesting one. Obviously, on last night's performance, you'd have to make Conor the favourite by a big margin. But we just don't know what Amir's got left. I mean, he's a good fighter. He's not boxed for a couple of years now. It's a long time out of the ring when you're getting older and in the twilight of your career. So obviously, you'd have to favour Conor. I mean, it's a great crossroads fight, but it's one that I just don't think Amir would want unless the money's ridiculous and Eddie can talk him into it.
Now, one name that wasn't mentioned, the man that you work with and certainly caught the eye of people when he last fought, David AVANESYAN. Over social media, people mentioned his name, but on the broadcast and by Conor himself, never used David's name. Just your thoughts, kind of, would that be the fight for you guys? Would you be interested in that fight if it was proposed to you?
Well, like I've said to people, ideally, David needs a world title final eliminator or a world title fight. If obviously that can't be delivered, then what next? I mean, it's a bit similar to David. It's an Irish low reward fight, you know what I mean? But it's a great name. It's a fantastic fight. And if we can't get a world title eliminator or a world title fight, then why not? I mean, the British public would love that fight. It'd make big views. It would get big numbers. It's a well talked about fight. I mean, obviously, after what David did to Josh Kelly and how Conor Benn's looking, I mean, I'll be honest with you, at one stage, probably the fight before this, I didn't think Conor would be ready for David. But last night, he looked very, very good. And he's definitely ready for David now. I mean, do they want it? I don't know. It's disappointing that David's name wasn't mentioned last night. Just not in the fact even to fight Conor, but in general, I mean, they mentioned all the top welterweights, but David's name wasn't mentioned once, which was disappointing, really. So, I mean, the thing that made me laugh was, I mean, Conor's calling out Sean Porter, fighters like that, Broder, but Sean Porter's #1 in the world with the WBC. David's #6. He'll be #5 now because Amir Garcia is moving up to 154. So if he's calling out Sean Porter and names like that, then I'm surprised David didn't get mentioned. So do they don't want to risk him fighting David? I don't know. It looks that way to me, but we'll see. But listen, if we can't get the big world title fight or a world title eliminator, I mean, obviously, I know Neil's in talks with Eddie. Eddie's thrown a few names at Neil. They've not properly ticked the boxes yet. So we'll see what he comes up with now after Conor's performance last night. But it's an interesting one because, I mean, David's promoted by Matchroom as well. He's managed by Neil. And obviously, Conor's promoted by Matchroom. I mean, Conor's been with them from day one. So if Eddie can deliver the sort of fights for Conor like Sean Porter and Broner, then surely that's what he should be doing for David, because David's obviously 4 European champion, 4 back-to-back European title wins, all stoppages. So surely he deserves an high-profile fight more than Conor. And if he can't deliver, then just make them 2 fight. That's what I would do.
Carl, why do you believe, or why do you think that Conor never mentioned David's name last night?
It's an interesting one, really. I know he's got a lot of respect for David. I know he rates him highly. So, yeah, maybe that. Maybe he thinks it's 1 or 2 fights too early. But if he's calling out the likes of Sean Porter, who's ranked above David and a more high-profile fighter than David, then surely he should be fighting the likes of David before Sean Porter, in my opinion. So it's an interesting one. I don't know. It's just funny that nobody on Sky, not one person last night through the whole of Sky commentary, mentioned David's name. I can't believe it. I mean, even if it isn't to fight Conor, I mean, you'd have thought it'd been mentioned. So it's a shame, really, because coming off a big win against Josh Kelly, live on Sky Sports, and I'm led to believe it got big numbers, big viewing figures, that fight did, more than the usual Sky Sports show. So, yeah, I mean, let's see. But David deserves a big fight now, definitely.
Let's touch on kind of David's next move. And let's say, moving on from Conor, you mentioned you've had some names put to you that haven't quite ticked the boxes that you guys wanted. So what do you think is most realistic, or who in particular have you guys got your eye on?
Well, I mean, I know that Virgil Ortiz has been mentioned. I spoke to Eddie at the airport in Gibraltar. He mentioned Virgil Ortiz. He said that would be a great fight for David. So I said, yeah. I said, speak to Neil, obviously. I mean, Neil's in talks. But I don't think Eddie's put Virgil to Neil. He's put other names to Neil, but we haven't. Neil spoke to me about him, and they just don't quite tick the boxes. I mean, we don't want these young up-and-coming fighters that's 22-0 and that. We want a big name now. We want you know what I mean? We want a Broner, a Porter, a Spence, a Pacquiao, you know what I mean? Them sort of names. I mean, I really, truly believe that David deserves that. I mean, he's a name in America. I know he underperformed against Peterson and Kowalski, but he's boxed there. He beat Shane Mosley, who's a massive name, and a future Hall of Famer. So his name's out there, David, in America, and I do know he's well known out there. So surely that something can happen. They can make something happen for him.
I remember in the immediate aftermath of David's win against Joshua, there was a lot of talk about him deserving a big fight, a big opportunity, whether that be for a world title or somebody like a Sean Porter in his case, somebody who has competed at that level, former world champion himself. Do you think it's realistic that, listening to you now, that it could be one of those guys, or do you think it may well end up being somebody who's maybe just below that world scene, somebody like we've previously spoke about, Daniel Yellow-Usinov, you mentioned Virgil Ortiz there, somebody like that instead of one of the world champions or world contenders?
I think Sean Porter's the name we'd want. I mean, obviously the latest WBC rankings come out. Porter was #1. He's a silver champion. David was #6. Like I say, if Garcia does go up to 154, David would become #5. So what a great fight that would be for a final eliminator for a world title. I mean, he's not actually been mentioned once, so I don't know if he's an opponent that Eddie can't get. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, there's lots of names out there. It's a division stacked in talent. The top 10 is unbelievable. But I think we really deserve a big name. If not, then obviously it's down to Neil and Eddie to sort out and to see who they can get. But he's got to tick the boxes now. I mean, David's 32. Luckily, he's a peak 32. He's in the best, the best form of his life. So age isn't really a matter for David. But we do believe he deserves a big name, definitely.
Carl, just a quick couple of words on some of the fights on the undercard last night. Ebony Bridges and Shannon Courtenay, a terrific fight. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone was saying it didn't deserve to be a world title fight, which it probably didn't, but they did half deliver. Fair play to them. I mean, what a great advert for women's boxing. They put it all on the line, toe to toe, had a proper war. Courtney was just a little bit cuter, a little bit smarter, had better boxing skills. Bridges only really had one way going forward, bit route one, but she brought it to the table. She brought it all. She had a proper fight. And that eye, the way it swelled up, I mean, fair play. She dug deep and got through it. I mean, she couldn't see out of that eye from about round 8, surely. And she dug deep. But no, you got to give full credit to Courtney. She boxed fantastic and deserved the win.
And final one, Cash Farouk Espinoza, a terrific performance again from Cash, who's impressed everybody again.
You know what? I really rate Cash Farouk. I know he's trainer Craig Dickens as well. Good guy. I spent a bit of time with him in Tenerife once, so we had a bit of a laugh, had a drink together. He's a good guy, and he's doing a fantastic job with Cash Farouk. Great fighter, unbelievable style. I love watching him. Got all the moves and really cute. Got all the angles, all the punches in the book, and I love watching him. Facial wise, reminds me of young Ishan Pickering back in the day. Every time I see him come on the screen, he always thinks to himself, it reminds me of young Ishan Pickering to look at in the face. But no, he's a great fighter. What a fight that'll be, the rematch with him and Lee McGregor down the line again. But no, he's a great talent, and it's great that he's signed to Matchroom now because he's being showcased, which he deserves.
Right, Carl, we will leave it there now. I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I appreciate your time today, mate. I'll speak to you again soon. Thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Thanks, Andy. Tom, mate. Cheers.